Jerry Lawler wants to become a real Floridian, not a transplant. The king wants to become a Floridian. Well, I would like to know exactly how it feels to be a true Florida cracker. So I have Quaker State Super Blend motor oil, and I am going to show you people how it feels to be a true Florida cracker. And right here I have 5 pounds of dirty, filthy dirt. And that's exactly what it is. And I have got this dirt entirely all over my body. And now I know what it feels like to be a dirty, stinky, greasy Florida cracker. And it's something that I never want to feel like again. What I would like to do is to challenge that fool, Jerry Lawler, to this kind of a match, to where he would go ahead and wrestle me, and if I defeat him, I get to take a quart of motor oil and pour over his body, and take 5 pounds of dirt and pour that over his body, and turn him into a dirty, filthy, stinking Florida cracker.
I don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, FCI presents WCW Super Brawl Wrestling.
And welcome back to Retro Wrestling Games Present. I'm your host, Lex G, and with me, as always, is Matt Riley. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm as always.
Are you in your safe space currently?
Oh, I'm absolutely in a safe space.
So on this episode, we're going to be talking about WCW Superbrawl Wrestling for the Super Nintendo. I do have a personal affinity for this game, although the game, spoiler alert, is not good. This was a multi-time weekend rental for me at my local video store, which was, I think, a Blockbuster at the time. So I got to play this game quite a bit as a kid. Although the game is not good, it was just really cool to see like a WCW Super Brawl game with like Ric Flair and Sting and Vader on the cover, and me being a huge WCW fan. I thought it was really awesome that they got a game for the Super Nintendo, and I was really excited about this game because I had played the WCW game for Nintendo, and I thought that game was really good. And it was actually produced by the same company that did that game as well. So WCW Super Brawl Wrestling was released for the Super Nintendo in 1994. Again, it's named after their famous pay-per-view Super Brawl. Again, it was the last game to be produced by FCI, which also is known for like the Ultimate Series, and like I said, the WCW video game in 1990. The roster is very interesting, and we'll go through that right now. We have Barry Windham, Lion Brian Pillman, The Natural, Dustin Rhodes, Johnny B. Bad, who I'm pretty sure is not in any other video game. He might be like in Warzone or something. But Nature Boy Ric Flair, Rick Rude, Rick Steiner, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the All-American Ron Simmons, Scott Steiner, Sting, and Vader. The interesting thing about this roster is that the Steiner brothers, who had left WCW in 1992, but didn't come back until like 1995, late 95, early 96. They actually had went to WWF and probably already finished up in WWF at the time, so very strange that they chose to include them in this roster. I wonder if FCI, maybe they were trying to have a deal, bring them back, or what have you, or FCI just went and said, we're just going to put the Steiner brothers in there. Unless this game's been in development since 1992. Again, it was released in November '94, and that's a long development cycle for this game. If they had that much time to develop this game, I don't think the game would be as shitty as it is. So the game has a 3/4 overhead perspective. Kind of reminds me of Fire Pro a little bit. All the wrestlers once again share the same moves, for the exception of the signature moves, which in some cases they didn't get right.
Yeah.
So it's like, ugh. Like Dustin Rhodes has the bulldog, Johnny Bag has the left hook, and Vader has this weird power slam thing. It's weird. The modes of play include singles, tag team, 8-man singles tournament, a tag team tournament between 4 teams, and the Ultimate Challenge. Not WrestleMania 6, folks. This is the Ultimate Challenge, where a player must defeat every other wrestler in the game, just like every other wrestling game in the history of wrestling games. Different stipulations can be selected for matches. You can have a 1 fall, or a first to 3 falls. Or 2 out of 3. No, 3 out of 5, 3 out of 7, whatever. Or a time limit of differing lengths with the most fall on the particular time limit. So it's basically an argument match. That's what they're trying to say. During the course of the matches, what I think is interesting, a little bit fun, that the pop-up referee that counts, and a Tony Schiavone, who provides commentary for this match. I'm a big fan of Tony Schiavone, so...
Tony Schiavone. I'm a big fan of Tony Schiavone. You know why?
Why?
He retweeted me once.
Bless his heart.
I did a picture once of he was calling a home run at a baseball game. He's a baseball announcer now, and I was like, "It's going! I'm sorry, fans, we're out of time." And he retweeted it. I was like, "Nice." Then Jim Ross retweeted it.
Nice.
Yeah. Good old JR.
I mean, that's good stuff. I mean,
Tony Schiavone's always like that. Oh no! What happened? Oh, Tony.
I like it when he said, "Hulk Hogan, you can go to hell."
Yes, that was good.
But he gets a lot of shit. I don't think he deserves it. So we love Tony Schiavone here at Retro Wrestling Games.
Yep.
So here are the good things about this game. It's named Superbrawl. It is a WCW game. It has Vader in it. It has Ron Simmons in it. It has Ricky Steamboat in it. The hit detection, which is what you need in a game of this sort, is the ability to hit your opponent is terrible. I keep on trying moves. I'll try a punch or a drop kick and just miss them. And it's like, there's no way. How the fuck did I just miss them? So that's not. I do like the fact that you have a strength and a health and stamina kind of meter, or health and strength meter.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You can save up multiple finishers, so you can kind of like, if you really want to do Japanese style, you can do like 3 finishers in a row and kind of defeat your opponent. Or you can choose it through try to do it throughout the match. The visuals are gross. The graphics are gross. And why do I say the graphics are gross? Compare it to Super WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Rage in the Cage, any of those games, and you compare it side by side. And those games came out before this game, and the animations are smooth. The wrestlers look good. Like I played the game, and I'm Brian Pillman, and I'm pretty sure that's Tracy Smothers. Brian Pillman and Tracy Smothers should not look alike. Barry Windham looks like Ric Flair. What? And I would say that Vader is missing his pants, but that's been already talked about on several different shows. That Vader wears no pants. It's weird. Like, do you watch the show? He clearly wears pants. I've never seen Vader without pants. I do like the selection screen where the guys will give you like little kind of clips of them saying their taglines, which is cute. But overall, there's no entrances, no ring music. Not that WCW was known for the ring music, but still, the moves look weird and funny. And so, I think overall, when it comes to this game, as much as it pains me to say it, it's not good. It's not good. You know, the nostalgia factor is not enough for me to say, hey, this is a quality game, I recommend it. So Matt, I know you watched some footage of this game. What were your thoughts?
It's a shit show. No, I think we talked about before I started, like the gameplay is terrible. I always say, it's like when you say, oh, Johnny B. Bad, like there's somebody out there is a Johnny B. Bad fan who's like, yeah, man, remember that game? I loved it because it had Johnny B. Bad. And everyone's like, oh man, that game sucked. Well, that's the game for that guy. So
I mean, the roster is good. I mean, this is pre-Hogan era. This is right after Flair came back from his short stay in the WWF. So, like, the roster is fine. I'm cool with the roster. I mean, we'd like to see that PN News in there. But, So again, I think overall the game is not good. I don't recommend it. This is a pass. Although you can find it fairly cheap if you're so inclined. I think I got mine for $4. So there's definitely copies out there. So since this game is called Super Brawl and not Starrcade for some reason,
I would call it OK Brawl. Or Brawl.
Mediocre Brawl.
Yes.
So since this game is called Super Brawl and not Starrcade, it got me to thinking. And I have a theory. I have some evidence that will show, to back up my theory, that there was a period of time, at least a thought, in WCW that, hey, listen, we're not going to have Starrcade be our big show of the year. It's not going to be our WrestleMania. We're going to move that over to the February pay-per-view, whatever that's be. So in most cases, the February pay-per-view is Super Brawl, other than the one time that it was Wrestle War. And based on some of the Starrcade main events and some of the Starrcade shows, I could definitely see them going like, oh, we're just going to do our big show in February at Super Brawl. And I know Eric Bischoff had said in one of his interviews, he alluded to the fact that, hey, listen, the February pay-per-view doesn't draw. It's Christmas time, people are doing other things. Meh. But he never stated that he was going to try to replace Starrcade with another show as their big show of the year. But, there was definitely an allusion to that. So let's quickly go over the histrionics, some of the Starrcade main events, and see if my theory holds any water. So this all begins at Starrcade 89. Now, Starrcade 89, for those who don't remember, was the Iron Man tournament. It was the Future Shock.
Yes, it was.
So they did this round robin tournament, singles and tag. So they had Lex Luger, Sting, Ric Flair, and Great Muta on the Iron Man tournament. And they had Doom, the Steiner Brothers, the Road Warriors, and the Wild Samoans, and the Iron Team tournament. Okay. So again, there's no championship match at the Starrcade. There's no big feud going into this. They just finished up the Flair and Funk feud. Now Flair, a babyface.
Yes.
So I guess the big surprise of this show was going to be the return of the Four Horsemen. So Arn Anderson makes his return at this show, minus Tully Blanchard. Where is Tully Blanchard?
Is that the cocaine thing?
That was the cocaine thing.
Oh.
So they used Ole Anderson instead. So again, the finals, the main event of the show was Sting versus Flair, with Sting getting the victory over Flair, who was the champion at the time. And then you had the Andersons come out, and it looks like they're going to beat up Sting, but they raise Sting's hand and celebrate with Sting. Yada, yada, yada. So basically, that the alliance between Flair and Sting led to the reformation of the Horsemen, which was Flair, Sting, Ole, and Arn. Although it didn't mention it during this pay-per-view, that Sting was awarded a title match for winning the Iron Man tournament. Flair being upset that Sting was awarded a championship match, got pissed, told Sting to, hey, listen, don't cash in your match.
Right.
Sting got kicked out of the Horsemen because he accepted the title match, and then, hey, we're going to Wrestle War, which is the February pay-per-view. So the original plan for the February pay-per-view, which is Wrestle War, the wild thing, by the way, was Sting versus Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. That match did not occur at Starrcade. It was supposed to occur at Wrestle War. Now, for those of you who don't know, Sting got hurt, and then replaced Sting with Lex Luger, and Sting won the belt in Great American Bash later on that year. But clearly, it's clear to me, based on this pay-per-view, that they wanted their big show. They're going to have their feature match, their big match, to be on Wrestle War 90. And I think one of the reasons, too, is that they wanted to put the belt on Sting before the WWF put the belt on Warrior, which would have been in April.
Right.
So that didn't work out. They kind of screwed the entire year of 1990, which led to the Black Scorpion. So if we look at Starrcade 90, speaking of the Black Scorpion, the main event for Starrcade 90 is Sting, the NWA World Champion versus the Black Scorpion. For those who don't know, Black Scorpion ended up being Ric Flair. So you got your Flair-Sting match at Starrcade. So could you consider this the biggest show of the year? I guess. But it wasn't Sting versus Flair, it was Sting versus the Black Scorpion. Now, this angle was built up quite a bit, and it always kind of seemed that it was either going to be the Ultimate Warrior or Eddie Gilbert as the Black Scorpion. So it looks like for this year, it's like, all right, we're going to go back to Starrcade being our biggest show. Then you go to Super Brawl 1, which is the February 1991, which had the famous Tatsumi Fujinami Ric Flair match for the NWA Championship. Now, in between Starrcade 90 and Super Brawl 91, which is only like 2 months, 3 months, so from December to February, Flair had regained the NWA Championship on a house show in 1990 in a house show in January 1991. And then he went over to Japan to defend it. According to our Japanese friends, he lost the belt to Tatsumi Fujinami in Japan. So a phantom switch for the NWA title, because as far as the Japanese know, Fujinami came back to the United States to drop the belt to Flair Super Bowl I. But in America, they still had Flair as the champion, and it was going to be, they did a controversial finish, and this was going to be the match to really kind of settle the issue there. So I don't know if you would consider a Dragon Fujinami Ric Flair match as the biggest match of the year. I do think this match is probably a little bit better than the Scorpion Sting match at Starrcade 90. So you can make an argument that this is their big match because it has to do with there's the New Japan, the IWGP champion versus the NWA champion. That's a big deal. Also on that show, it had the really good Super Bowl I, by the way. The really good Steiner Brothers versus Lex Luger and Sting match, which is, if you haven't seen that match, that's worth watching their pay-per-view. Not for the Elegante Sid Vicious match, but for the Steiner Brother Sting and Lex Luger match. So then we go to Starrcade 91, and for those who don't know, Starrcade 91 was the first Battle Bowl. Holy shit. Lethal Lottery, the Battle Bowl. So again, there is no WCW World Heavyweight Championship match on this card. Basically, if we don't know what the Lethal Lottery is, they put a bunch of wrestlers' name in a hopper, they pull it out, and then they pick teams at random. The winners of those teams go into a Battle Royal type setting. The winner of that got a ring the next year. Yay. So the winner of that was Sting, so Sting did win the Battle Bowl. Again, they didn't initially say that Sting would earn a shot at the world title if he had won the match, but he got a world championship match at Super Bowl II, which is in February 1992. So Sting gets his title match at Super Bowl, so it's the big match, right? Sting versus Luger is the big match for them, right? You didn't do Sting versus Luger at Starrcade. You could have, but you didn't. So we have Super Bowl II, which is February of 1992. Like I said, it had two really hot matches. Actually, three really hot matches. You had Anderson and Bobby Eaton versus the Steiner Brothers, which is fantastic. You had Rick Rude versus Ricky Steamboat, which is fantastic, against Sting and Lex Luger for the world title, which is a pretty good match, to be completely honest. You also had your Ron Simmons Cactus Jack match. So clearly, Super Brawl 2 is the big show of that year, not Starrcade 91. So we look at Starrcade 92, which is Battle Bowl 2. Yeah. The second Battle Bowl. Yeah. And they brought it back. This is actually not a good show. They did have championship matches on the show, which is great, but once I tell you what the championship matches were for this show, then you understand what I'm saying. So you had an NWA World Heavyweight Championship match between Masahiro Chono, who beat the Great Muta. Okay. And that's the middle of the card. In addition, you had Ron Simmons, who beat Dr. Death Steve Williams by disqualification for the WCW World title. I guess what you can consider the big match for this show is Sting versus Big Van Vader for the winner of the King of Cable tournament. So they have a tournament going on, they have Battle Bowl going on, you have New Japan wrestlers in there, and you have Ron Simmons who fights Dr. Death, which I think was a substitution for Rude, if I'm not mistaken. I think Rude was hurt.
Probably.
Fuck. So the winner of Battle Bowl 2, 92, was the Great Muta, who defeated the likes of Big Van Vader, Dustin Rhodes, Van Hammer, Danny Spivey, Sting, Steve Williams, and Barry Windham. Yeah, so I don't see that being the big show. So let's look at our Super Brawl 3. And as we talk about this, I want to ask you a question, Matt.
Yeah.
In the WWF, what show is numbered?
What show is numbered?
Numbered, yeah. Like one. Okay. In WCW, what show is numbered?
Ugh.
It's Super Brawl.
Was it Wrestle War?
No, Super Brawl is numbered.
Oh.
So Super Brawl is numbered. So we're going to look at Super Brawl 3. So in Super Brawl 3, you have a couple of different matches here. The big one being the White Castle of Fear strap match between Big Van Vader and Sting.
Oh, God, I remember that now.
Yeah. I believe Vader was champ at the time. Non-title match. In addition, you had Barry Windham beat the Great Muta for the NWA Heavyweight Championship on that show as well. So you can argue that Super Bowl 3 is the big show for that. So let's take a look at Starrcade 93 by Castle Feud. Jesus Christ. So now we go to Starrcade 93, which you can consider to be the big show of this year. So the main event of Starrcade 93 is Ric Flair versus Big Van Vader. So this is for the WCW Heavyweight Championship. If Flair loses, he must retire. So like, okay. So that's Starrcade worthy main event. So let's look at the next Super Brawl, Super Brawl number 4. Super Brawl 4's main event is Ric Flair versus Vader in a Thunder Cage match with the Boss Man as the referee.
Oh no.
So could an argument made that that match was the big match of the year? So you had Flair beat Vader for the belt, and this is Vader's return match. It's close. I don't know. So let's look at Starrcade 94. Starrcade 94 main event is Hulk Hogan versus Brutus Beefcake.
No. The Booty Man?
Now, he was the Butcher at the time. He had turned on Hogan, and they did like a Nancy Kerrigan thing, because Nancy Kerrigan was big at the time, like the fucking someone hit him in the knee and shit. Which I believe led up to the formation of the Dungeon of Doom. So Hogan versus Brutus Beefcake is the main event. Fuck. And if you watch that show, they are hyping up Super Brawl all show long. Because Super Brawl 5 is Hulk Hogan, WCW champion, taking on Vader. Clearly a better match than Hulk Hogan versus Beefcake.
Right.
So you could argue that this show is the big show of that particular year, live from the Baltimore Arena. Starrcade 1990. So Starrcade 95 is a mess. So they did a, which is a cool concept, I guess, but not cool for a Starrcade. You put this on the Great American Bash, I think. So you had the World Cup. So you had wrestlers from New Japan Pro Wrestling take on the best wrestlers from WCW. So you had matches like Jushin Liger versus Chris Benoit, Koji Kawamoto versus Alex Wright, Lex Luger versus Chono, Johnny B. Bad, Masa Saito, fucking dead Saito lose, Otani versus Guerrero, Tenzan versus Savage, and Sasaki versus Sting. But in addition to that, they had Ric Flair versus Lex Luger and Sting in a triangle match, and then they had Ric Flair versus Randy Savage in a singles as well. A messy shit. I mean, obviously the Savage Flair main event is definitely a Starrcade worthy match.
Right.
And the fact that he had Flair win twice. So he beat not only on the same night, Ric Flair beat Sting, Lex Luger, and Randy Savage. Although he beat Sting and Lex Luger by count.
Well, this kind of goes back to the theory about Flair ruining business.
He wasn't even booking at the time. I can't blame him for that. So then we have the next Super Brawl, which is Super Brawl 6. So the main event of Super Brawl 6 is Hulk Hogan defeating the Giant in the steel cage. On the undercard was Ric Flair beat Randy Savage, who had won the championship in between. This is when Miss Elizabeth turned.
Oh, God.
Savage hit him with the shoe. So I'm like, all right, so I'll give Starrcade the due on that. So I think at that point, they had reversed their thoughts. Like, all right, we're going to make Starrcade our big show, because obviously you have the big Hogan-Piper match at Starrcade 96. Starrcade 97, you had the Sting-Hogan match. Starrcade 98, you had the Kevin Nash versus Goldberg match, which is, the big match of that year. So I make the argument, for a period of time, it looked like they were trying to have Super Brawl be their big show, not Starrcade. Again, there's no one said that in all the interviews that I read and all the other stuff. They never claimed that, hey, well, listen, we're going to try to replace Starrcade with Super Brawl. But this is a theory of mine based on the information I have, looking at the main events and kind of looking how they promoted these shows. That you can make an argument that for a 4 or 5 year period that they were trying to replace Starrcade with Super Brawl. Actually, Super Brawl 1 was the return of Dusty Rhodes too. So that's a big deal. So Matt, what do you think? Do you think my argument holds any weight?
I do. I think that they wanted to have a marquee event, but I think what they didn't do is respect the fact that the fans saw Starrcade as that event. Again, WCW had many problems. But one of the biggest ones was that they tried to just like, well, we're gonna put this name on it. We're gonna do, you know, that's it. It's Shockmaster. It's gonna be great. You know, it just. We'll bring RoboCop out. No, it's so much.
I will defend RoboCop to the dying day.
Oh, screw RoboCop. It was a sequel. It wasn't even the first one.
I saw that flick in the movie theater because of WCW. So fuck off.
But no, I think that it's one of those things that, you know, I always felt they were always behind the 8 ball trying to do these things and measure up to WWF, WWE, whatever I call it. And this was just one more example of, nope, not happening.
Do you think if they would have just moved Starrcade to February, they would have had a better chance at doing it? So we're going to legitimately just move Starrcade from, you know, Christmas time until February.
Yeah, I mean, they could have done that. I could have said, you know, we're going to make it a change. And I think, again, people already, I know I was already like, there's already Starrcade, you know? It's like, make it a big event. Like, when Flair fought Vader, that was a huge match. I remember that match vividly.
You remember, like, you saw a Charlotte Flair on that show. So that Mean Gene went to Ric Flair's house to pick him up, and they did an interview with him and his family. And you see, like, Reed, David, and little Charlotte. So that was their first appearance in wrestling.
Yeah.
He could have been somebody.
Yep.
It was good. So again, poor WCW. I think if they would have, I think they were trying to be half pregnant. Like, they didn't want to alienate their fans by moving Starrcade, but they alienated their fans by putting the best matches on Starrcade. So it's like, if you just would have just moved Starrcade to February, it's like, hey, listen, it's a month before WrestleMania. It's probably the best time of the year for their show. You know, we're moving it. We'll put War Games in December. You know, kind of coming off of like Survivor Series. So, now what do you do? So overall, WCW Super Bowl wrestling, it's not the worst game in the world.
It's up there.
But I think overall, it doesn't deliver in any of the key aspects that you want a wrestling video game to deliver. There's already wrestling games that were out that were far superior in gameplay and graphics. Again, this is a game that came out in 1994, not 1991. So again, with the advent of Super WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, Rage in the Cage, I think Raw comes out a little bit later. But those games are already out. And for this game to kind of, it almost looked like something you would see on a late Nintendo game. I mean, it's not our super early Super Nintendos.
Yeah.
Because the graphic quality is not there, the sound is not there, hit detection is not there, and I mean, it's kind of a jumbled mess. So I do not recommend this game. Doesn't mean I don't like it, though. Just because it's not a good game doesn't mean I don't like it. Again, I have a personal attachment to this game. So, but overall, it's just not a quality game. I don't recommend you picking it up unless you have a morbid sense of curiosity, like myself, and who are trying to review every wrestling video game ever. So, can't wait to get that Commodore 64. So, we are officially out of time. Show for Matt Riley. I'm Lex G.